Good morning, everyone. This is Caden. So I'm going to go ahead and post this on YouTube just so that everyone has access to it. I wanted to go ahead and make a bit of a practice exam video. I thought it would help me out. I thought it might help some of my classmates out. So let's go ahead and get into that. This is a publication on Discord. It's by Practitioner, and I'm probably butchering that. So if any of these are incorrect, I apologize, and go ahead and let me know. So practice exam 1. AWS allows users to manage their resources using a web-based user interface. What is the name of this interface? If I'm not mistaken, it's AWS CLI, but manage their resources. So this could be anything from EC2 to S3 to EBS, EFS, anything. So I think actually it's D. Perfect. The answer there was D. Number 2. Which of the following is an example of horizontal scaling in the AWS cloud? So the focus here is this word horizontal. So it's going left to right, not up or down. So let's look at A. Replacing an existing EC2 instance with a larger, more powerful one. So we know immediately this one is not correct because this is vertical scaling. The instance EC2 instance is going up, right? So the whole point of horizontal scaling is to add more. It's not to make the singular one bigger. So let's look at B. Increasing the compute capacity of a single EC2 instance to address the growing demands of an application. Again, this isn't correct because you notice we're increasing a single EC2 instance, so we're bringing it upwards instead of creating more and taking them outwards. Look at C, adding more RAM capacity to an EC2 instance. This is the same reason why A and B are incorrect. D, adding more EC2 instances of the same size to handle an increase in traffic. This is the answer that we're looking for because we're adding more EC2 instances. So that's scaling outwards horizontally. Yep, and there's our answer, D. Number 3, you've noticed that several critical EC2 instances have been terminated. Which of the following AWS services would help you determine who took this action? So we have A, Amazon Inspector, B, AWS CloudTrail, C, AWS Trusted Advisor, and D, EC2 Instance Usage Report. So let's take this one backwards. So D, EC2 Instance Usage Report, that's just going to be a report based on your resource usage, if I'm not mistaken. And then C, AWS Trusted Advisor. AWS Trusted Advisor also looks at resource utilization, but it also makes recommendations. It looks at a couple different things. So actually, this is a great time. Let's go ahead and look this up. So let's look up AWS Trusted Advisor. And AWS has great resources on this. So what does AWS Trusted Advisor do? It optimizes costs, improves performance, and addresses security gaps. So it's kind of a automated system. So AWS Trusted Advisor helps you optimize costs, increase performance, improve security and resilience, and operate at scale in the cloud. Trusted Advisor will continuously evaluate your AWS environment using best practice checks across the categories of cloud cost optimization, performance, resilience, security, operational excellence, and service limits. And it recommends actions to remediate any deviations from best practices. So this is like your AI helper, but it has direct access to your resources, not as if it can use them, but so it can see how you're using them and give you recommendations. So we know this isn't true. What is AWS CloudTrail? So we've heard what AWS CloudWatch is, and that is I almost want to say a resource auditing system. So it will continue monitoring your resource levels, and it can trigger automatic alerts whenever things go over a certain threshold. So if your CPU utilization goes over 50%, CloudWatch might send you a notification. But AWS CloudTrail is different. So if we're looking at the last end of this word, trail, we can think about they're leaving. We all know the example of leaving the trail of breadcrumbs through the woods, right? So this kind of goes along with, so this is our issue. EC2 instances have been terminated, and you want to determine who took this action. And if there's a trail, might be a little easier to find them, right? So let's just remember this one, and let's go ahead and look up what Amazon Inspector is, and that will narrow it down for us. So just right off the bat, we can tell what this guy's for. So Amazon Inspector automatically discovers workloads such as Amazon EC2 instances, containers, and Lambda functions, and scans them for software vulnerabilities and unintended network exposure. So Amazon Inspector is like it's a built-in Amazon antivirus, and it works on EC2 instances, containers, and Lambda functions. It's interesting that it works on Lambda functions because that's serverless compute. So it does look for vulnerabilities, and that's kind of a key theme here is that everything on this list is looking for something, right? But what are we specifically looking for? We're trying to figure out who terminated the several critical Amazon EC2 instances. So we're going to go ahead and choose B. Yep, answer is correct here. And just for a little supplementation, let's go ahead and bring this up for you guys. So it tracks user activity and API usage on AWS in hybrid and multi-cloud environments. AWS CloudTrail service enables governance, compliance, operational auditing, and auditing of your AWS accounts. Let's look at the use cases real quick, because this is a very important service, especially for business or enterprise developers. Well, they're not really developers, but business or enterprise use cases. I think that's a better term. So protect your organization from penalties using CloudTrail logs to prove compliance with regulations such as SOC, PCI, and HIPAA. I'm not sure what SOC is, but PCI is personal customer information. HIPAA is health-related stuff. Security. So you can improve your security posture by recording user and API activity in your AWS accounts. You can also enhance your data perimeter with network activity events for VPC endpoints. So that's great. So this is your all-in-one auditing tool, just so we're aware. So let's move on to 4. Which of the below options are related to the reliability of AWS? So our keyword here is reliability. So A, applying the principle of least privilege to AWS resources. So if you guys have any knowledge on this, is a security principle. You do not give people resources that they don't need. You're just opening yourself up there. I'm going to take a drink real quick. Automatically provisioning new resources to meet demand. This sounds correct. And also remember, we got to choose 2. So let's hang on to B here for a moment. C, all AWS services are considered global services, and this design helps customers serve their international users. I'm not sure if this is related to reliability. If we were to give it the, say, B, C, D, F tiers, I would put this one in probably B tier. So D, providing compensation to customers if issues occur. This is not. Ability to recover quickly from failures. If I'm not mistaken, that one is elasticity. So I'm going to go ahead and take a guess here and say it's B, automatically provisioning new resources to meet demand. And C, all AWS services are considered global services, and this design helps customers serve their international users. Because this one does not sound like reliability to me. This one sounds like elasticity. And D, providing compensation, has nothing to do with this concept. And we know that A is a security principle, not a reliability principle. B and E, this is interesting. So let's go ahead and pull up the AWS, the AWS 6 pillars. Let's look at this real quick. Because clearly I need to look at this because I did not get that last one right. So The first pillar is operational excellence. Operational excellence pillar includes the ability to support development and run workloads effectively, gain insight into their operation, and continuously improve supporting processes and procedures to deliver. That's not me. That's just the wrong word. Procedures to deliver business value. You can find perspective guidance on implementation in that white paper. So design principles. There are 5 design principles. So you're going to perform operations as code, frequent small reversible changes, refine operations procedures frequently, anticipate failure, learn from operational failures. That's cool. We're going to skip by this guy. Reliability. So the reliability pillar, and this is what we were going over here, right? So the reliability pillar encompasses the ability of a workload to perform its intended function correctly and consistently when it's expected to. This includes the ability to operate and test the workload through its total life cycle. You can find perspective guidance here on that white paper. So let's see. Design principles. There are 5 design principles for reliability in the cloud. Automatically recover from failure. So this is just a gap in my knowledge here, I suppose. See, because I did not think that C sounded correctly, but I was mistaken about E because I thought that was elasticity, which whenever we get down to elasticity, you'll probably see why. Test recovery procedures, scale horizontally to increase aggregate workload availability, stop guessing capacity, and manage change in automation. Performance efficiencies, democratize advanced technologies. So this term here, I've had to look this up. Democratize, it doesn't mean your customers are voting on what resources. So the way this term is used here, it just means it's accessible to everyone and it's easy to use for everyone, right? So you're catering to those with disabilities or those with maybe just simply don't have great internet connections. So you want to be able to give them a video streaming option where they can stream at 140p, right? So it could be anything. But this is just you're trying to make sure things are available to everyone, all people. Go global in minutes. Use serverless architectures. So Lambda is a serverless compute system. Look that up in your free time. Experiment more often, so just test things. Consider mechanical sympathy. This is an interesting term here. Let's go ahead and look this up because I think this might be valuable. I hope they don't mean feel bad about the robots. Mechanical. So this is from AWS, so we know this is true. Mechanical sympathy is when you use a tool or system with an understanding of how it operates. Interesting. That makes sense. Let's scroll back down here. Cost optimization. This is important for every business because you don't want to go spending crazy money and not end up having it, right? You want to save all the costs you can. So you implement cloud financial management. There's a lot of really good resources that AWS provides for this. Adopt a consumption model. And if I'm not mistaken, this is you're modeling out how much resource you're going to use. Measure overall efficiency. Stop spending money on undifferentiated heavy lifting. It makes sense. Analyze and attribute expenditure. So track your spending. You want to make sure your money's not going out the door for some odd reason, right? And also, I suppose elasticity is not even in this. So it seems I was very mistaken. But here's the last one, sustainability. There are 6 design principles for sustainability in the cloud. Understand your impact. Establish sustainability goals. You maximize your utilization. And by this, so imagine you have, this can go for on-prem or cloud. It's a little easier to manage in cloud because whenever you're doing on-premises stuff, you're just going to buy one big server. You're kind of guessing if you need all that compute capacity, which is one of the benefits of AWS. So imagine you have just a simple 8-core, 64 gigabyte of RAM and a couple gigabytes of storage. We'll do like 256 gigabytes of storage, right? So to maximize utilization, what that's talking about is using the compute that you have, right? So you don't want to go purchasing another server if you're only using 50% of your CPU utilization. Or you don't want to go buy bigger sticks of RAM if you're only using half of your RAM. This almost seems obvious to me, but anticipate and adopt new, more efficient hardware and software offerings. Right. So we know we live in a capitalist society, so everything is constantly competing, and there's always new things coming out, new, efficient, better things. So do that. Use the best that you can find and be the best you can. So use managed services. So this will mean that you're offloading some of your workload onto another business. So your internet service provider, that's a managed service, right? Like imagine how much of a pain that would be to the average person, even the average small business, to set up your own internet connection to the global internet. So this is just make things a little easier on you. Reduce the downstream impact of your cloud workloads. Not 100% sure what that means, but we're going to go on to the next question here. 5. Which statement is true regarding the AWS shared responsibility model? So A, responsibilities vary depending on the services used. I like this one right off the bat because AWS is in charge of a lot of things that the AWS customer is not. And the customer of AWS is responsible for a lot of the things that AWS is not. And then there's also things that both AWS and the customer are responsible for, like encryption. B, security of the infrastructure as services is the responsibility of AWS. This is not true. So AWS is responsible for the infrastructure itself. So they must maintain the security of the physical servers. But whenever you're spinning up an EC2 instance, you are in charge of the security of that instance. Does that make sense? C, patching the guest OS is always the responsibility of AWS. So this keyword here is always, and then also guest OS. So if you don't know what that term means, so there's a baseline operating system. It's more or less a firmware on the EC2s that you spin up that then you can load a guest OS onto. Now, AWS provides, I think it's 5 or 6 built into the management console for whenever you're spinning up an EC2, but you can also use your own. So this would not make sense if AWS is always responsible for patching the guest OS. So I don't think it's C. D, security of the managed services is the responsibility of the customer. So the keyword here is managed services. So that means it's managed by AWS. So I think A is our best answer here. And there we go. So 6. And also, how long is this? Quite long. Let's see, where were we at? We'll go to question 10 because this video is getting kind of long here. You have set up consolidated billing for several AWS accounts. One of the accounts has purchased a number of reserved instances for 3 years. Which of the following is true regarding this scenario? So A, the reserved instance discounts can only be shared with the master account. B, all accounts can receive the hourly cost benefit of the reserved instances. C, the purchased instances will have better performance than on-demand instances. This is a red herring, but not necessarily false. Oh, I gave it away. Well, the answer is B. All accounts can receive the hourly cost benefit of reserved instances. And this is a feature of consolidated billing. And this you can set up within your account. Organizations is completely free. You can set it up for free. It's never going to cost you anything. AWS provides a lot of stuff like that, just completely free. It's great. They do great things. So B. And then let's go and look at D real quick because I didn't get to that one. There are no cost benefits from using consolidated billing. It is for informational purposes only. So now we know D is not true. We already know B is true, so D clearly can't be true. So just remember this. If you see there are no benefits from using it is something, then it's not going to be true. Because once you understand that the AWS certificate, it's the Cloud Practitioner certificate is more of a, I almost want to say a marketing cert. So you understand all the technologies, but it's more focused on marketing it towards you and getting you to market it towards other people, like to other businesses and stuff. So if you ever see an answer on any test that says there are no cost benefits or there are no benefits, think about it, because this is more than likely not true, right? Because why would AWS create a technology or a thing like a service, include the service in the certification exam, and then tell you there's no benefit? That just doesn't make any sense. But let's go on to 7. A company has developed an e-commerce web application in AWS. What should they do to ensure that the application has the highest level of availability? So let's look at A real quick. Develop the application across multiple availability zones and edge locations. I don't know if I said deploy the application. So this is good. I like this. B, deploy the application across multiple availability zones and subnets. So I don't think it's B because the subnet thing does not matter. C, deploy the application across multiple regions and availability zones. So if you remember the global infrastructure of AWS, it goes region, availability zone, data center, right? So region is your top level. This is going to be like almost your specific countries, right? And then D, deploy the application across multiple virtual private clouds and subnets. So the subnet thing instantly makes me think it's not okay. So let's see. I was gonna eventually get to that. I keep clicking here and it's showing the answer. I was thinking I had to click that, but I guess I need to not put my cursor here. So deploy the application across multiple regions and availability zones. So if we want the highest level availability, right? We don't just want our application within one region, right? So it's already good to separate out and put them in different availability zones. That way, one, it can decrease latency that customers have within the region, and also prevents failure if one of the availability zones just goes out. But if you would deploy the application across multiple regions, that gives you a whole new level of security, right? Or availability. I say security because security against physical issues, right? So if power goes out or the data center floods or a fiber line gets cut on accident, it's about protecting your resources and providing redundancy. What does AWS Snowball provide? So as soon as you see snow, you should know that it's for data transfers, right? Because this technology is based on a previous one called Snow something. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but that was for large data transfers as well. And AWS kept the naming scheme just so people who have used that technology before would already be somewhat familiar with this one. So what does AWS Snowball provide? So we know it has something to do with data transfer, but there are different tiers to this. So let's go through and read. A built-in computing capabilities that allow customers to process data locally. So the data is a keyword, but the snow services are not for processing data, it's for moving data. B, a catalog of third-party software solutions that customers need to build solutions and run their businesses. This has nothing to do with it, all right? Hybrid cloud storage between on-premises environments and the AWS cloud. This isn't true. So this might have a little bit to do with data transfer because you're transferring between on-premises and the AWS cloud, right? But this is talking about hybrid cloud storage. So this is about storing the data itself, not about transferring. So an exabyte scale data transfer service that allows you to move extremely large amounts of data to AWS. So we know one answer is going to be D because we're talking about data transfers, right? And then E, secure transfer of large amounts of data into and out of AWS. So let's go ahead and take a guess here. I'm going to say it's D&E, all right? We're talking about data transfer. Let's go and check this. A&E. I believe this is inaccurate. A physical data transport solution for securely and efficiently transferring large amounts of data to and from the AWS cloud. This is interesting. Oh, D threw me off. I should have thought about this a little more. This is snowmobile. This is not snowball. I get the different tiers mixed up sometimes. So yes, this is A and E. And according to Mr. Google AI here, it provides edge computing and data processing. So Snowball edge devices offer onboard storage and compute power, enabling local processing and analytics of data at the edge. So this is A and E. Oh, goodness. Let's look at 9 here. The company has an AWS enterprise support plan. They want quick and efficient guidance with their billing and account inquiries. Which of the following should the company use? So we're looking at billing and account inquiries. So questions, right? They want quick and efficient guidance, and it has to do with the enterprise support plan. So the AWS Health Dashboard is provided to all support plans, including basic, which is free tier. So we know this has nothing to do with it. And then customer service as well wouldn't have anything to do with it, because we're talking about quick and efficient guidance with their billing and account inquiries, right? So customer service isn't going to deal with the billing. People are going to have to do with billing. Operations support would have to do with your actual cloud architecture and stuff like that. So I really like B, support concierge. I also have this memorized that AWS support concierge they help you with the billing and account queries, right? And then 10, this will be our last one. A Japanese company hosts their applications on Amazon EC2 instances in the Tokyo region. The company has opened new branches in the United States, and the US users are complaining of high latency. What can the company do to reduce latency for the users in the US while minimizing costs? Okay. A, applying the Amazon Connect latency-based routing policy. This is interesting because we see latency-based, right? Registering a new US domain name to serve the users in the US. So while this might help with a little bit with latency, it'll only help with the DNS, right? So C, building a new data center in the US and implementing a hybrid model. This just doesn't make any sense. You wouldn't want to build a new data center. Is not going to minimize costs. D, deploying new Amazon EC2 instances in a region located in the US. I think it's D. Okay. We're wrapping up here. This is about a 40-minute long video. I might try and get it cut down. But yeah, we know what you guys thought about it. And if you kept track of your own score and no cheating, you can go ahead and drop it down in the comments. I would love to see those. Awesome. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you later.